Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unraveling a bit of a philosophical detective story. So, have you ever stepped into a church or maybe just watched a highly structured religious service and thought to yourself, does participating in these rituals actually make logical sense? Are they rational actions, or is it just, something people do purely out of habit? We instinctively think of our daily lives in terms of cause and effect, right? But religious ritual, it often completely defies that logic. So, how on earth do we make sense of it? Okay, let's dive into this. Our guide for today's explainer is a fascinating, honestly brilliant, dense paper by philosopher Gordon Graham, published in Theology Today. Graham tackles this exact puzzle head-on. He looks really closely at Christian liturgy, specifically the act of communion, to ask what it is we're literally doing when we perform religious rituals. His central point, the core thesis we're really going to hone in on today, offers a completely unexpected way to understand ritual action. Here's our playbill for today. We'll set up the puzzle of ritual, examine the traps of magic and the limits of therapy, and then unveil the main event, dramatic enactment. After that, we'll stage the cosmic drama and finally explore acting in eternity. Act 1. The puzzle of ritual. Is going to church rational? To understand human behavior, we naturally separate rational actions, things done for a specific reason, from non-rational instincts, like, say, randomly humming a tune while walking down the street. Graham confronts us with a really blunt question. Is it rational to celebrate communion? If there's a right and a wrong way to engage with the chalice and the script, well, reason has to be involved. But how exactly does reason apply to bread, wine, and liturgy? Philosophers generally give us two options for rational action. The first is instrumental rationality. That's an efficient means to an end. It's like using a key to open a padlock. The second is intrinsic rationality, doing something simply because it's valuable in itself, like choosing a fresh apple just because it's good, not because it's a tool to get you something else. Section 2. The Trap of Magic. God as a Vending Machine. Let's test out that first option. What happens if we view communion as just a tool? An instrument to get a result. To see why this is a massive problem, think about the difference between technology and magic. Technology works through the physical laws that govern the natural world. Magic, conceptually at least, is a shortcut. It relies on specific spells or formulas that bypass those physical laws entirely to force nature to bend directly to human will. So if communion is just an efficient means to an end, say securing your salvation, then it essentially becomes a magical spell. If we actually believe that simply saying the exact right words forces God to give us grace, we basically turn the Creator into a spiritual vending machine, dispensing grace the second we insert the right coin. We've completely removed God's sovereignty. Graham points out this is as mistaken as thinking that slapping the word please at the end of a request magically makes it impossible for someone to say no to you. Section 3. The Limits of Therapy, the Birthday Present Problem. Okay, so if it's not a tool, what if we use the intrinsic approach? What if we treat communion like a fitting birthday present? So the crucial point is this: who is actually benefiting from this fitting action? Graham brings in Plato's Euthyphro dialogue to remind us of a harsh truth. God, being perfect, needs absolutely nothing from us. God doesn't benefit from our bread and wine. But if God doesn't benefit and only humans feel better by performing the ritual, then it's not true divine service at all, is it? It becomes exclusively therapeutic. It's basically a group therapy session that completely fails to reach beyond the human sphere. Section 4. Liturgy as Dramatic Enactment, the Third Way. We are officially at an impasse here. Magic is a trap, and therapy is super limited. But Graham provides a brilliant escape route, and this is the central focus of our explainer today. If it's not magic and it's not therapy, what is it? It's drama, specifically enactment. Enactment is taking a script and bringing it to life in the physical world through a wholehearted performance. And importantly, this is a highly rational action. You can judge a performance as objectively good or bad. A bad amateur production totally fails because the actor's just hamming it up, while a truly great performance fuses the actor and the role perfectly together. Think of it this way. Truman Capote wrote the brilliant character of Holly Goldlightly on paper. But it required Audrey Hepburn's physical presence, her voice, her entire being to actually realize that character in the real world. The script absolutely requires the actor to exist. And this brilliantly illustrates the true depth of enactment. Our language itself reveals this deep ontological identification. We don't just say, Anthony Hopkins played a part. We naturally say, Anthony Hopkins is Hannibal Lecter. For the entire duration of the performance, the real-world actor and the imagined character are perfectly fused into a single reality. Section 5. Staging the cosmic drama, the 4 acts. Now, let's take this theatrical framework and apply it directly to a traditional Christian service to see if the pieces actually fit. When you look at the ordinary of the Mass, which is the standard structure used across tons of Christian denominations, it maps perfectly onto a 4-act dramatic structure: the gathering, the word, the sacrament, and the dismissal. In the first 2 acts, watch how the staging begins. Random individuals, even the latecomers sneaking into the back during a hymn, are physically forged into a new, unified character called the people. Then someone steps onto the literal stage to declare the word, physically stepping out of the crowd to read from the text. They're taking on the roles of ancient Hebrew prophets, declaring the word to the newly formed Israel. They are literally acting out the gospel narrative right there. Then we hit the climax, Acts 3 and 4. The Liturgy of the Sacrament. Members physically carry ordinary bread and wine to the sanctuary. Participants actually leave their seats to physically cross a divide. They are dramatically enacting a bridge over the enormous gulf between humanity and the divine. Finally, in the dismissal, the drama concludes, and they transform back, stepping seamlessly into their worldly work right outside the church doors. Section 6. Acting in Eternity. The timeless meets the temporal. So if liturgy is a drama, what are the ultimate philosophical implications here? Like, what actually happens when ordinary people step into these roles? Graham suggests that through the liturgy, the faithful are enacting the grand cosmic drama of the world's salvation. Now, they are absolutely not the authors of the script. Authorship lies solely with God. But just like a movie script desperately needs an actor, this divine drama requires the wholehearted participation of ordinary people to realize it in human life. The believers are the actors making discipleship a reality. Think about the contrast here. The character of King Lear is timeless. He has no specific date or real-world location. But the actual performance, that happens under a specific spotlight on a specific Tuesday night, performed by a very specific mortal actor. Liturgy works the exact same way. Communion itself is a completely timeless concept, but the communicant, the worshiper, is real, dated, and strictly temporal. By fusing these two together in the act of enactment, the timeless and the temporal are completely united. As the philosopher Søren Kierkegaard so beautifully put it, the experience becomes one of the eternal come into being in time. This means ritual isn't a magic trick, and it definitely isn't just therapy. It's the highly rational act of participating in eternity by playing a designated part in a cosmic script. Which leaves us with a pretty profound thought to take away from this explainer. If the highest form of rational ritual action is the wholehearted enactment of a timeless role, what eternal characters are you enacting in the everyday, seemingly ordinary dramas of your own life? The script is already written. The real question is, how will you perform it?